In the 1930s, Carl Gustav Jung came up with a phrase that he is credited with having coined: the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious was an idea that he purported existed as a reality, that there is a collective psyche. I happen to know that he was a student of Vedic knowledge, and what he was studying, he'd slightly misinterpreted. The Vedic language for it is not the collective unconscious, it's the collective consciousness. That is to say, what is the state of consciousness of a collective? If we think of our brain, in our cranial area, we have between 10 and 12 billion neurons, brain cells. If we count the entire central nervous system, there are 100 billion neurons that make up our central nervous system and our brain. And our average consciousness state is going to be that which exists as a collection, that is to say, the gestalt of, or that product which is greater than the sum of the parts. That is to say, what our consciousness state is a product of all of the firing and operation of all the billions of neurons. Now, so I have a consciousness state. We enter a room and there's a party going on. And if the party is jubilant and a little manic, then we do tend to get swept up into that state. If we go to a funeral where everyone is grieving the loss of a dear loved one and everyone's sad, then we can feel the collective curving in the direction of that sadness, that loss, that feeling of depression. I worked for many years on the inside of rehabilitation settings in prisons and jails all over the world. And when you go into a prison environment, there's nobody, including the prison guards, who actually wishes to be there. And so you're in an environment where consciousness has a quality about it that is tangible, palpable in the air. One can really feel what that collective is. We know that when we move from one city to the next, there's a feeling of a city. What is the feeling of, let's say, Berlin? And let's contrast that with the feeling of, let's say, Amsterdam. What is the feeling of Paris? What is the feeling of Chicago? What is the feeling that is vibrant and that you could even describe in Los Angeles? What about the feeling of Sydney? Let's take it bigger than that. What's the feeling level of Australia? What is the feeling level of Australia when all the fires were burning a few months ago, destroying all of the forests and wildlife in that place? What is the collective feeling in the United States when people are in hysteria practically over the threat of coronavirus? What is the feeling level that is going on anywhere at any time in a collective? Now let's take it larger. What's the feeling level of the entire Earth right now? What's the Earth feeling like as a collective of people? And so that collective consciousness is a consciousness state. Each one of us makes our contribution to it. Each one of us is a part of that. But there's an important point to make here. There's a biological fact that the few lead the many. The few lead the many means that it only takes one neuron to fire for tens of billions of neurons to fire and go into the energy needed for a given thought that goes into action. When a few people are experiencing unified field consciousness in meditation, it doesn't take a large percentage. It doesn't take millions or billions. It takes only a few people to begin experiencing that unified field consciousness, and it is a contagion. It's infectious. People who are around you, even who don't meditate, when you practice meditation, they can't help themselves. They begin being influenced by you. They start naturally behaving in ways that are more in attunement with the laws of nature. It's in this way that meditators are influencing positively the average state of the collective consciousness.